everybody. Welcome to the Illuminerdi World Order Wrestling Show, our first ever show. We're going to talk about all things WrestleMania 36. But before we get started, let's bring in our very, very special guest, the legend, the world's strongest man, two-time Olympian, world champion, three sports powerlifting, strongman, pro wrestling, Hall of Famer, the Mark Henry. What's going on, Mark Henry?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really excited about what happened this weekend, and I mean, this has been a really good WrestleMania despite the situation that we're in right now. But man, you talk about a company making the most of a bad situation. Vince McMahon is going to go down in history as the only guy to have entertainment in the world at a time. So pretty big kudos to him.
That's right. And also joining me, my left hand, the yin to my yang, my co-host, Nate Haskell. What's going on, Nate?
I am okay, Jay. I appreciate you for asking. I'm just glad that we have Mr. Henry on the show. I ain't calling him Mark. You can call him Mark. I'm calling him Mr. Henry.
She called you the stranger. My left hand.
My left hand. I'm left-handed though, so I'm not gonna take it as a compliment. I'm gonna take it as a little bit of a compliment.
And so here we are. What a crazy thing. Who would have thought we would have gotten through a whole Mania, not one night, but 2 nights with no audience, no crowd, and still managed to see some of the most memorable moments in WrestleMania history that we've ever seen before. We're going to start with day one. We're going to run down the matches, the high points, the low points, the in-between points, the points we could have done without, and what it could mean going forward. Kicking off this year's WrestleMania, we had the Drew Gulak versus Cesaro match on the pre-show. A little filler just to get the palate warmed up. We're not sure what's going to happen with them in the immediate future, but at least they got a chance to get on the show, right? Mark, as a person who has been through this many, many times, what is kind of like the mentality when you're on the pre-show, you make it to the big dance, but you're not really part of the pay-per-view card, but you're still there just to get the audience warmed up? What is it like for those guys who are just kind of in the pre-show section of the card?
Well, first, there's only going to be a few main events, and only to people that are not on the biggest pay-per-view of pro wrestling in the world will call it filler. The people that open the show are assuming a role. Everybody has one. The cameramen have their jobs, the lighting technicians, the ring and grips, everybody have a job. And then it gets to the producers and the talent and the announcers and the referees. Everybody has a job to do. And the guys that open the show that are not the elite guys, that are the main event status guys, they're going out and doing the job. And I would have to say that one of the most memorable moments of the entire of this whole pay-per-view weekend was watching Cesaro take his hands off and spin somebody. He made a moment, and it'll be something that people will talk about for the rest of this pay-per-view weekend.
Making a moment out of kind of a situation that looks bleak was very difficult, and I agree with you in that sense that he made his moment, and it feels like these big kind of shows are kind of like movies in the sense where, like, you might see that the director is him, and the main star is Tom Cruise or whatever, but it takes an entire village of people to make a show be successful, and not everybody can star. I totally agree.
I can't even imagine what that must be like. Usually when in a traditional WrestleMania in a pre-show, the crowd is there and they're hot, and you're since coming to that there's nobody there, but your part is critical in kicking off the match for the show. So Cesaro wins the match with the pinfall. We get the airplane spin and the pinfall. Cesaro is such a talented guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what type of a push or what type of a run he has in the aftermath of this, and as we make our way to Money in the Bank and whatever is going to happen with Money in the Bank in May. Going on to some of the matches, the main matches of the show. The first up, we had Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors. Of course, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, wearing my Alexa Bliss shirt, pull off the win and are now the women's tag team champions. Kairi Sane just really stood out in that match to me. She was killing it, absolutely killing it with all the acrobatics and the things that we're used to her seeing. The women really, really brought it, as I expect them to do every single time. I'm going to toss it over to you, Nate. What were some of the high points of the match for you?
Listen, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say it. Wrestling without a crowd it's difficult. It's very difficult to, I almost feel for the performers in the sense that there are all of these spots and high spots that should get pops from, and it's hard to sell, in my opinion, when there's no crowd. And I love that we have new tag team champs, but I just felt like they were kind of robbed of that moment with no crowd. And that's my personal opinion. I understand that, everybody's going to, feel a different way or whatnot, but they busted their ass, and I feel like it was a good match. I just wish there was a crowd for that change.
Right.
When you buy a ticket to a show, you're not buying a ticket to see how the crowd is going to react. You buy a ticket to go see the talent that's in the ring, of the players that's in the ring. And those guys emotionally reach out to you by their work. And
Sure.
it's not the reaction of the crowd, because the crowd was at home.
Right.
I reacted to like several times about little bitty stuff that was like, a lot of people would say, oh, that's kind of insignificant. But it was even how aggressive the match was between Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler. They were hitting each other to where I was like, who owes who money? Even the reaction of the Firefly Funhouse match, which is happening tonight on the second day. I know we're skipping forward, but it's just for this conversation. A lot of people don't realize that, the points where the Vince McMahon puppet was saying, like, get your hands up and good shit and stuff like that. Every wrestler that's ever worked for him has heard him mumble those words. So that was something that got a reaction. I laughed my ass off. I really was like, oh my God, I can't believe he allowed them to poke fun at him, because he's not that guy.
Right.
And going back to the first day, watching Alexa Bliss, as much as I love Alexa and a fan of hers, you don't have to tell Asuka to turn up.
Right.
Excuse me. Asuka was off the page, different than everybody else in that match. Kairi Sane didn't have a choice but to up her intensity and up her game, because she would have looked boring in the presence of Asuka.
Sure.
That's what you pay for.
Yes.
You don't pay for hearing the crowd chant, "This is awesome." I wrestled in the territory days when we had studio shows. I worked in Memphis with Jerry Lawler, where every Saturday morning we went in the studio. The only people that were in there were the people that were holding the cameras and the microphones and the referees. So I come from that world. And for these young guys and girls to be able to stand up to that in just a matter of months, because it was a matter of months that they had to learn to work this style in front of cameras, I commend all of them. And eventually, one of these days, God willing, this thing abates and we go back to business as usual. We'll respect it a little bit more.
And real quick, I just wanted to say that I wasn't saying anything about the performers, because I understand that you perform the same in front of 10 people as 100,000 people. I was just saying that as a viewer at home, I wanted them to get that crowd reaction, that WrestleMania moment for those things. I wasn't that. Listen, the talent busted their ass. They worked exactly how they would have worked, like I said, if it was 10 people or 100,000 people. And you could see that through the screen. I was just saying, as a viewer, I wanted for them to have that moment is what I guess I was trying to say.
Then I'm gonna have to tell you to imagine that.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. I understand. Listen, there's nothing you can do about it. It is what listen, I'm glad that I got to see what I got to see today, and I was happy with it. And you know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For those of you who are tuned in, if you have questions during the show, please put them in the chat. We're going to try to answer as many questions as we can at some point during the show. So make sure you are dropping your questions in the chat. Going to what you were saying, just fast forwarding a little bit to the Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler match. My God, it was almost like the mics were turned all the way up. Those women were slapping the holy fire out of each other, like every single move, slap, plow. It's somebody is going to be the color of my shirt tomorrow, because they were putting in some work, knocking the hell out of each other like they really didn't like it. They really sold it. They really brought it. They showed some extraordinary skills out there and bravery just to go full throttle, doing all the extraordinary things that they did in the matchup. In terms of brutality, that was maybe one of the most brutal matches of the whole 2 days, just to see how they were going back and forth with each other. What was some of the
100% agree.
Yes.
They
outside
did so.
Of Edge and Randy, outside of Edge and Randy Orton's match, those two matches were the most violent and the most aggressive. A lot of hitting, a lot of falling, at one point, Shayna Baszler took a bump from the ring to the floor that I didn't know if she was going to be able to finish.
I saw that bump and I totally agree.
Shit, I don't know if I would have took that bump in front of people.
Yeah,
like, man,
exactly.
It just, the whole thing looked wholly painful. As a regular lay person who stood up on that ring, going to the Performance Center really opened my eyes to. I mean, I know that you guys get hurt all the time with some of the things you do, but to see that stuff live and in person, and how high that ring is off the floor, and how heavy those stairs are, and what those chairs really feel like, and to think that people are doing that night after night after night after night, getting banged the hell up, and the women just came out there and brought it. I can't even think of offhand a match between the women's division that was that hardcore with that much brutalization back and forth. Nate, when you look back at that match, what were some of your favorite parts of the Becky and the Shayna match?
It's just like you and Mark said. It's the brutality of it. They knew they had to bring it, and the women have been bringing it for the last 4 or 5 years now, and it's one of those things that women main evented last year, and it was like, listen, we need to bring it tonight, because people are going to talk about every match, and they're going to dissect it and nitpick it, because there is no crowd, so it's under a bigger microscope. And I love Shayna Baszler, and I love Becky is Becky, but I listen, personally, I wish they would have gave Shayna the belt, but that's just me. But other than that, there's nothing really to say that other than they brought it.
Mark, do you think that now, without the sound of the crowd in the background, do you think that people will have an increased appreciation of what you guys really do? Because undoubtedly there were more eyes than probably more casual fans who tuned in, just because there aren't any other competing sporting events going on today, and people are missing their live sports action. Do you think this will enhance people's appreciation and respect for what you want out there?
I definitely think that people will have a greater appreciation for the talent in the ring. But more than anything, I think that people will have a greater appreciation for the acting of the talent, not just the wrestling. Being able to perform um, and deliver promos where it's not scripted. Most wrestlers, and I say most because there's an occasional Jeff Hardy who's kind of a shy, reserved person until the lights come on, and then they're an extrovert. The majority of wrestlers, the personality is when they walk in a room, they own the room. You automatically know, oh my God, that guy's a wrestler or something. He's off the chain, and that's what the world is seeing from pro wrestling. Being a guy that thinks ahead and sees things ahead. Um, the biggest thing about the whole weekend is the produced matches, like the Boneyard match and like the Firefly Funhouse. Now people realize that um, whatever TV show that you're a fan of, if you plug in wrestlers to these shows, they will become equal to what you see on TV, and most places better.
You couldn't have
But
said it any
still,
better than that.
there's no Oscars, there's no Emmys for pro wrestling. But after this is over with, categories might be created because of what you see our technical people that work for the company, the producers, directors, the writers, like they're talented people. And I can name, I'm not going to sit here and name all the guys, but people like John Harper, who has gone on to win 5 Emmys for television, he came from wrestling. I'm not talking about people like The Rock and Batista and Big
Right.
Show.
The behind the scenes.
I'm talking about the directors and the producers that leave the WWE and they go on to other big companies and they succeed in ways where you wouldn't even believe. I mean, we have guys that have won Oscars and Emmys, like our production and writing and acting staffs. I just wish that there was more of that, and I think that this is a vehicle to get that done.
Do you real quick? I'm sorry, Jay. Do you, because of the success of those pre-done segments like the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse, do you think that the WWE is going to do more of that moving forward, or do you think that they're just going to kind of, brush it away after everything kind of gets back to normal?
That goes back to that is pig pork. You have to. You have to do more. I mean, you're gonna say, "Oh man, this." You drive a Maserati, but you say, "You know what, man? This AMG it feels pretty good." I don't know if I'm ever drive it again though. No,
Right.
if you get a new whip, you rock it, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the WWE is going to be able to do now. They're going to be able to. I think that every pay-per-view from now on till the end of time should have one produced full action feature type of match. You listen to the music. You listen to, you see the lighting,
sound effects, the
sound effects, and everything. And the biggest thing in that match. Did you watch Joker?
Yes.
The thing that made Joker a great movie to me was not just how great of acting that was done in that film, but the musical score. Hearing the violins and the cellos in the back, giving more of a how do you say, gives you more feeling and an ominous presence when things start to happen. And that's what happened in the Boneyard match. A lot of people may not even realize what they heard, but they heard cellos and violins and
but they felt
heavy bass, and they felt it.
Yes,
and
they felt it.
The entertainment value was really good, and there was no weakness in it. The only weakness is going to be old school, typical fans that say, you know what? I like my oatmeal with raisins and butter and no milk, and that's the way I want it. Those fans are going to be unhappy. because there was cinnamon and allspice and a little heavy cream. Like it was there were things that made it pop and
this is still oatmeal. It might not be the way you like it, but it's still oatmeal.
And it's delicious.
Let's all the way into the Boneyard match, because it was so good. We got the American Badass Taker. We got AJ Styles in full country slang. We got Druids. We got the OG. We got all the landscape graves. It was everything. It was all the things. It was so entertaining. It was creative. It filled up a great amount of space in a situation where you have to be creative to work around the circumstances that we have in the world today. But that, man, it's got me looking back at the Woken Broken Matt Hardy match and trying to compare the two, and they both were just so amazing and so epic. Nate, is this the rage now? Are we going to make that turn now fully to cinematic matches?
Listen, if anything, I feel that this type of match or segment, whatever you want to call it, is going to extend wrestlers' careers.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, listen, Taker is Taker. He's a legend. The man has given his body and heart and soul for 30 years of the business. Pieces, everything. But sometimes when you see him in the ring, as of late, you're like, fuck, he's the man. I don't like to see him. You have to perform like that. And this kind of shit, I was like, I'd watch The Undertaker do this fucking every month. It's fantastic.
This is gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Did you see the interview or the tweet where Mick Foley said, "Hey Vince, next year I want to be in a Boneyard match with The Undertaker, please."
I did not, but I am all in. That is
but
awesome.
Not just Mick Foley.
Right.
When you have matches like
my
this
friend,
Mr.
World's Strongest Man, you coming out.
Man, that's the first thing I told my wife. I was like, I'll come out of retirement and work TV matches like that, because
100%.
I don't have to leave a piece of my soul in the ring.
Exactly. And
I want people to see me the way that I used to be. And for 5 and 10 minute spurts, I could be as good as I ever was. But I'm going to have to go away because I know that my body won't be able to handle that workload.
Right.
And I mean, just think about, more Ric Flair and more guys that you grew up seeing. I've heard so many guys go, "Oh man, I love wrestling. Well, I used to love it back, when this guy was wrestling and the Big Show and now I don't know the people." So now you'll be able to integrate the older wrestlers with the younger people to get them more viewage and what we call the rub. You'll be able to do more of that and not have guys be damaged in the process.
And if anything, I feel like something like that. Like I watched The Undertaker when he was selling for AJ and AJ was calling him old man, and he was I was almost like, why isn't he in movies? And that could be the same thing for you. You know what I'm saying? Like you're a heavy, as they call it. You know what I'm saying? Like you're a bad, and if you get into a situation like, because as opposed to being looked at as just wrestlers in the ring, you get looked at in this different light, and all of a sudden it's opening up a new avenue for all of these wrestlers who have already been actors, and like you said, in terms of promos and everything like that, for years that got looked at in a certain light. Now Hollywood can be like, yo, I should cast this dude because he can do X, Y, and Z.
Right. And even tomorrow, the Big Show on Netflix comes out.
Yes.
And, I play his best friend on the show. So
that's awesome.
I'm going to be in that as well. But Big Show is the star, and I'm hoping for spinoffs and another season and things like that. But I want to see more people like Big Show that are really good emotional entertainers.
Right.
Guys that if I want to cry in 10 seconds, then I could do that. And Big Show is one of those guys. And go from an expression to being able to make you angry and to make you feel sorry for me at the same time.
Mark, in 2013, you did that with a pink jacket on, and it brought me to tears and made me want to throw stuff at my screen at the exact same time, my friend. So, yes.
I lied to not only you, but I lied to everybody.
I know, and it will be forever in wrestling lore for all time.
Well, thank you. I worked my ass off for it.
Really, this could be the launching pad for a whole new direction on Netflix. Just a whole pseudo reality type of show where you do these cinematic matches. Netflix is where it's at. They're always looking for interesting content. Mark, you might want to make a little pitch at Netflix.
Hey, I've done that wink a lot lately.
Real quick,
I've been spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, and unfortunately, with this pandemic, we've had to scale everything back. I'm doing my backstage from home. I'm doing Busted Open from home, and other shows like this one. I'm able to be on my couch and play video games with my kids for a change when I was gone all the time. So this it's been good and bad. I feel bad saying that because I know people that have died and I know people that have lost loved ones, and it's very, very hard for people out there. And
it's a real thing.
That being said, I go back to the PSA. Stay to yourselves. I know it's painful, it's boring, but stay to yourselves and wash your hands and
wash your damn hands, or you end up in the Hall of Fame.
Bleach. Yesterday, my kids, they got bleach rags and they wiped off doorknobs and light switches and toilets and outdoor door handles, the places where you put your hands on the chairs, the tables, you name it. And you know what? Like as a family, that's a in pro wrestling, we used to call it team building. And as
teamwork
a team
makes the
building
dream work.
exercise, everybody should go around the house and wipe something that's where people put their hands.
Mark, you must be speaking that prosperity in existence, because you talking about making the money rain and it just started storming here in Los Angeles. I can hear storming on the patio. But we're going to take some questions. Nate, hook us up with some questions from the viewers.
All right, here we go. This one's from Joe Vega. Mark, what was your favorite WrestleMania moment?
I guess if he's saying this pay-per-view.
No. I think in your career, sir.
In my career,
yes.
I would have to say, and it was unfortunate for me that I got put in a casket, but it would have to be WrestleMania 22. Me wrestling the Undertaker in the main event at WrestleMania for the streak.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was either that one or you and Orton, right?
Well, me and Orton was great. That was a great match. But I'm talking about what it did for my career.
Sure.
Certain people, the Ric Flairs and Shawn Michaels and Triple H's and Big Shows and guys that I've wrestled, man, I got the chance to wrestle Ricky Steamboat at a live event one time.
Wow.
And it was the same as Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. Like, I was such a fan that I didn't want to win. And
right.
He kept saying, beat me. And I was like, no. And he was like, beat me. And he hit me and I backed up and he hit me again. And finally I gave him the world's strongest slam and the crowd went nuts. And we were both standing there crying like children that got spankings. And
That's how you know.
that's
That's how you
that's
know.
the thing about wrestling that people don't understand is the real live emotion is what makes wrestling wrestling. Wrestling's been around since the late 18, since the I can't say 1817 or 1817 is early
Right.
1800s, but there's been some form of pro wrestling or fixed fights uh, since the
Since the
early
U.S.
18th
Yeah, since the U.S. got the U.S.
established. Yes,
Yeah.
and I love that, and I'm glad that I'm part of that.
Fair enough. We got another question here from Master Shake 61. You were only there for a short time, but what was OVW like?
Man, I loved OVW. The introduction of Rip Rogers alone was it was like gold. It was like somebody going, "Hey man, walk in this door right here. They're gonna hand you a little bag, and it's gonna be full of gold." And that's what my training was in Louisville, and
Right.
for Ohio Valley. I learned a lot that is still uh, carrying me in my everyday life. Rip Rogers used to say, "You need to be over prepared." And
Got
I
it.
think that people in the technical field realize that more than the entertainers, because not only do you have to have the skill, but you may have to work the lights one day. You may have to work the sound equipment. You may
Because you
have to
had been
help them produce a show. Like
because
be
you
Rick.
had been you had been on the main roster for a few years before you went down to get quote unquote some seasoning, I guess. Is that the right way
Well, I had to
to
go get humbled because
Oh, got it. Okay.
I was more violent in my younger years, and if you talk shit to me, I usually slapped you and then said, "Let's go outside."
My man.
And there was a time when people were afraid to work with me because they thought I was going to hurt them,
Got
and
it.
people were bringing that on themselves. It wasn't all my fault, you know. Like
Right.
I hold a grudge,
Sure.
and um,
And especially when you're new to an industry, there's nothing that you should. It's not
yeah,
like
I
know
was
any of
Mark
these
Henry.
people.
I wasn't used to
Yeah,
nobody
you
ribbing
didn't
me
know
and
any of
joking
these
and
people.
playing.
Right.
And I used to have a thing down in Louisville called Final Exam Time. And when all of the shooters used to come, all of the guys like Don Fry and Ron Waterman and Dan Severn and Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, like there were a bunch of guys that came down there that they wrestled. Dolph Ziggler, you know, like
Right.
I knew that he was in the wrong weight class, but I was like, come on, let me see if that karate shit will work on me.
Too.
Like come test me. Let me see if it'll work. I was not afraid to get in there and fight anybody. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to fight in the brawl fall. They wouldn't let me fight in the brawl fall
Oh,
because all it would do two things.
Right.
It would hurt somebody that I fought,
Right.
or if I lost, it would hurt me.
Sure.
It would kill me off.
Sure.
So Vince protected me from myself.
Right.
And either way, it would have been bad for pro wrestling because I was telling people that I will pinch you until my fingers touch. And I could have done it then.
Right.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
If I
No, I
said
don't doubt it.
if I was gonna pull something off, I meant that
Yeah.
I could pull it off. And that was the difference. And I had a high success rate, except for the ass whooping I took from Brock Lesnar down there. It wasn't pretty.
Put.
It wasn't
Well put.
pretty.
I got one more viewer question before Jay. I'll toss it back to you.
Sure.
Ray Rizzle wants to know: was there an angle that you can share that you said no to, or was scrapped for unforeseen reasons?
The whole silverback thing.
Oh, right.
I refused to continue to do that because I just thought it was, you know, kind of demeaning, and being an African American male and the history of people calling black people primates and
Sure.
monkeys and
Sure.
stuff. I was like not going to be a part of that, and I said I don't
Sure.
like it, and I wanted to change. And
Good.
they said, you know what, we're not going to do that if it makes you feel that way.
Good. I'm very glad that they saw your because the minute that was a thing, even then I was just like, oh God, this is not okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it lasted about 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's as far as you were gonna let it last.
Yeah, all you got to do is have one old black man about 60, 70 years old walk up to you and go, I don't like that shit.
Nope.
And then it's over.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Jay?
And transitioning back, so we're talking about these cinematic matches. Let's flip over to the other side, to the other cinematic match with this cinematic match with John Cena and Bray Wyatt. Wow, we got to see all the incarnations of John Cena through history, from Thugonomics to the president. Man, we got them all. We got them all. What did you think of that one, Mark? Being able to, I don't know, could you see that being as almost a farewell? Like, we'll not get another John Cena, since we got to see kind of this love letter to John Cena's career.
An homage.
And still fit it into
I like the fact that it was. I like the fact that it was in a dreamscape type of scenario. It was in like Tales from the Crypt type of thing. It was you have to go back into the 80s when they had the creep show type of thing. And that I thought was very interesting, and it would appeal to the thinking person, the person that loves to be entertained. We talk about this being the nerd show. All the nerds love that, and I've kind of been a comic book nerd quietly my whole life. It's just that there's very few times you find a guy that likes books and likes stories, also be an athlete. And I'm slowly starting to find out that they exist. They just were afraid of being in the nerdom.
Well, here we are. Being a nerd is cool.
Yeah, here we are. It's cool to be smart. It's cool to be exposed. It's cool to be around educated people. Xavier Woods and I did a show recently, and he's a PhD and has been offered jobs at Fordham and Columbia to come and teach. And he's like, bro, I just don't want to go back to teaching. Wrestling is my life and gaming is my life. I carved that play out for myself, but that's what my mother always wanted, because his mother is also an educator and a PhD and a smart person. And he said in his neighborhood, when he was coming up, it was hard because people thought, oh, you just read books all the time. You're smarty pants. It was a bad thing. Yeah. And I'm just proud to be around people that pulled the veil away and allowed themselves to be smart and exposed people.
Fair enough.
Along with that, with the intelligence that so many wrestlers have, as I've come to learn, what people don't realize, that a lot of professional wrestlers do come from that nerd background, who are creative people who like to read, and people who dreamed of other things that just happen to have muscles. If you could kind of create your own content within the structure, other than the cinematic type of stuff where you could pop in, what kind of things would you like to create? Or do you have something that you're creating that you can give us a little, we won't tell anybody, just people watching.
Just the people that's watching. I'm actually working on doing some stuff right now that's in the food world, because my mom was a chef, and I grew up cooking my whole life, and I can go in any kitchen and handle my business. I love that world. I want to be involved, and I've pitched a few ideas, that some of which is already in the works, and
nice.
I can't really talk about them, but there's some real interesting stuff about the middle of this year, when we are the middle of the summer. let's say.
Okay.
Hopefully all this stuff goes away, but we were already working on a lot of big things.
Very cool.
Mark, what you over there cooking? What you over there cooking? What you cooked today?
I made steak yesterday. I roasted some acorn squash with brown sugar butter, some little special seasonings. But, I roasted the seeds for my daughter while that process was going on. So
you noticed she said that while shaking a cauliflower at you.
Yeah. Hey, now I'm gonna tell you something about cauliflower. Have you ever did like buffalo cauliflower?
I have.
No.
I've had it.
Like get some butter, Tabasco, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and simmer it down and cut them into slices, and just saute them. And I guarantee you'll be like, this is like the best thing I ever had in my life.
It's delicious.
I have cauliflower in the kitchen now. I'm about to do that tomorrow. I'm on it.
Listen,
I'm on
butter and bacon will change the complexity of a lot of foods, especially
when
cauliflower.
When people try to pass the cauliflower, have cauliflower wings where they try to pass it off as a substitute for it's like, listen, it's all right. It ain't hot wings, but it's all right.
It's all right.
It'll do what it needs.
Now, see, if I came into your home and made that, you would be like, it don't make me not want to eat chicken wings, but damn, this was good.
But I'm also not trying to get the world's strongest slam, so you could make anything in my kitchen, and I would tell you it was good.
Man, this is delicious. I'm going to wait till he leaves before I go spit this out.
Mark, maybe you have to do like the Blue Apron type of box meal things, and it have like your logo, like your face, like the world's strongest man, and you send us everything so we can make what's in Mark Henry's kitchen, and it'd be like a subscription service every month.
I'm going to talk to some people about that. Hell of an idea. You get some free boxes.
Period.
I love it. I love it.
Man. So finally we get to the end of WrestleMania and we get to the Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar. I kept a little tally sheet because I kind of thought it was going to go that way. We got us a 4 Claymore kicks, 2 German suplexes, and 3 F5s. And we was out of there because nobody's getting paid for overtime.
No, not at all. And I loved every minute of it. Drew, I've always been a supporter of Drew McIntyre. A lot of people that listen to us on Sirius XM, Busted Open, I call him grown-ass man Drew McIntyre because he went away as a kid and had to go and carve his way out in this world, and he did that. He worked hard, he changed his body, and he just grew up. He just grew up, guys. Like, there's a lot of people that's wrestling right now, they're kids. They're kids. Sure. And you give them 3 or 4 more years of seasoning and working with great talent,
right,
and they start to be able to grow a beard that connects. They stop wearing training bras. They're gonna be awesome. They're gonna be awesome.
That's my new. Listen, I just turned 40 years old, so we're all in the same age bracket, and that's my new thing. When I see a youngster trying to get lippy, I'm telling them, man, you can't even grow a beard that connects.
You're welcome.
Get them like.
I appreciate that, sir.
Man, oh my God, Drew. You know, I watched some of the supplemental content that WWE created for Drew. I can't even lie. It brought a little tear down my eyes to hear him kind of recount what the journey was over these 19 years to leave, to come back, and you finally get there. And it's not the way you envisioned it, but that's okay because the universe inspired for you when you were sincere and you are pure and your intentions are pure for where you're trying to get there. I shed a little tear for Drew McIntyre watching that.
And give credit to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is what The Undertaker was for me. He is giving life to people. Seth Rollins has life because of Brock. Now, Drew McIntyre is going to have life because of Brock. Brock is slowly becoming one of the top 10 greatest wrestlers of all time. And people are not even understanding what it is.
Is it because of the rub? Do you think it's because of the rub that he is it? Is it like Ric Flair in the territory days where he would go in?
Because of
he would go in somewhere.
Yeah. Him, then that means that you're somebody.
Right.
And people are going to care what you do based off the fact that you beat Brock Lesnar, the one that's on TV,
sure. The one that beat the Undertaker.
You're joking, man. You're joking.
Right.
Seth Rollins. What do you hear Seth Rollins say all the time when he talks to other wrestlers about him beating Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam?
Yeah,
that's his ultimate weapon.
Right.
Not that I beat Kevin Owens or I beat this guy or that guy.
Not that I held the belt for this many days.
Brock by name as a tool to enhance how people feel about him. That's the rub. And not many people can give that rub. And Brock is able to do it at a high level right now. And man, what an unbelievable talent that Brock has become. I remember his first day in Louisville. When he came to Louisville to Ohio Valley Wrestling, I remember the first day he showed up with that damn monster truck.
He drove it down from Minnesota?
When'd you get that? He was like, oh, I bought it yesterday. Like, wow, man, you must have been doing really good. He said, nah, he got his first WWE check and he went and bought a brand new monster truck. I said, you got your priorities worked out.
Hey, rappers get chains. He got him a big monster.
He
got his advance money. He got his advance money and just did the thing.
You know, and I also I would be remiss if I did not mention Braun Strowman becoming the Universal Champion. 11 years ago, I saw him at a strongman show, and I said, man, you have too much personality for strongman. You need to quit and start wrestling. I can't do it, Mark. I'm going to be champion. I was like, all right, man. Well, I tell you what, when you feel like you had enough, you give me a call. And 2 years later, he gave me a call. And I called Vince himself and said, Vince, you need this one. And he said, what is going on? What's going on? I said, listen, he's 6'7", 400 pounds, and can move like a little guy. He said, well, get him down there. I paid my own money to fly him to Orlando.
Wow.
And
really?
Yeah. He didn't have a tryout. He didn't have nothing. They went on my word. They brought him down there. He started training. He got hurt, and he was hurt. He was on the shelf for about 1.5 years. And then he started to develop. And here it is now, almost 11 years later, and he is the Universal Champion of WWE. And I feel so good and so happy for him that he was able to work and not squander away the blessing that he got. And I got a little misty-eyed yesterday just seeing him hold that title over his head.
Has he called you yet?
We text yesterday.
Oh, awesome.
Probably about 10 minutes. And, it got to, man, I don't want nothing. I got everything I wanted.
Yeah. It's like you're like a proud papa.
I was like, if you want to do something for me when you're on your way out and my son comes in, like, make sure you do the right thing. And he said, man, I already told Jacob that I dropped the strap to him any day.
So you're saying that you've got, you're saying that it's still running in the family, that you've got a boy that might be coming up.
Listen, man, he 14 years old and is 6 feet and 235. And he's an athlete. and I'm working him, and I'm telling him the reason that I'm working you is so I don't have to work you when you get older. You'll
Fair
be
enough.
ready. All people are gonna have to do is like plug you in.
That's good
And
advice.
I'm not trying to make him a wrestler, even though he fell in love with amateur wrestling on his own. And he is amateur wrestling, playing football, running track. He went to the Junior Olympics already in track. Um, he came in second at the national championships in the discus. Like he's doing his thing, and um, I'm staying out of the way. I'm the dad that stands in the bleachers. I don't want his attention. I don't want his limelight. I want him to go out there and bust his ass to be better than I was, because he's got every opportunity for doors to be opened up for him that a lot of people don't have, and I don't want him to be middle class or wealthy worthless. Like he don't have a choice but to aspire to greatness, because there's no off ramps in my house.
Well, I hope that Jacob reopens the Hall of Pain
Yes.
in
Oh,
about
he
10
gonna do
years or
something
so.
altogether different. He already tells me that I'm not you. I'm gonna do it my way. All right.
I'm
My way
sorry.
wasn't bad, son.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't
I
bad.
got a soft spot for the whole Hall of Pain run. It was one of my favorite things in that era of wrestling, and I just want to say thank you for that.
No, you're very welcome, man. I'm glad that I can contribute and be remembered when I'm gone.
Fair enough.
So, Mark, tell me, with our legends, and we have the opportunity on the big shows to see, our legends return. And during WrestleMania weekend, we didn't get to do, some of the activities that we normally get to see during the Mania weekend. Do you know, are there any plans going here for, do you think, for WWE to have some of those events, like an induction or just anything, so we can keep paying homage to our legends that have come before the current roster?
I don't think that they wanted it to be trivialized and not be held at a high regard. And it don't take people in the audience to do that either, but it needs to be well produced and well thought out. And um, I would hate for somebody to lose their ability to go up to a stage in a nice suit, tuxedo, and say, I thank you to all the fans, and thank you to my family, and thank you to everybody. Vince wouldn't rob people of that. He respects it too much.
Absolutely. Well, if we are coming to the end of our show, we want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. Of course, thank you, Mark Henry, for being our very, very first guest on the show. Plug us in. Where can we keep up with all things Mark Henry? And so when you start doing your box meals, we know where to start.
Well, you can look me up on the Mark Henry on everything social media. I'm on. You can hear me. You can hear Busted Open Monday through Saturday, from 9 to 11 on Sirius XM channel 156. I'm on Backstage. We're still doing the show. We're doing the show from home. It's on Fox Sports 1 on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I enjoy that so much. And my store just opened up, Pro Wrestling Tees. People can go out and get my merch.
Yes.
I'm at home trying to get these bills paid. So go get that Mark Henry shirt.
Go buy his T-shirts.
Yeah, man, and I'll see y'all down the road. I'm definitely gonna be tomorrow. The Big Show starts. I play a character on the show. It's gonna be really, really funny. Big Show has
can't wait to see
done
that.
his thing. I mean, it is absolutely a wonderful show.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And for everybody tuning in, if you want to follow me, I'm Giandra LaBeouf on Twitter, on Instagram, on all platforms. And my YouTube channel is Bad Culture TV. And Nate, bring us home.
Yes, if you'd like to follow me, I'm at Nathan Has Skill, HASKILL on all platforms. I'm most active on Instagram. I, make those ridiculous videos and whatnot. And I am very glad to be here. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mark Henry. Thank you, Illuminerdi, for the opportunity to be here with legends like this and chop it up and give people a glimpse into a conversation with a wrestler, and in this case, a Hall of Famer that maybe you wouldn't have heard anywhere else. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And remember, everybody, follow the Illuminerdi on all platforms. Make sure you visit theilluminerdi.com. Visit every day, share, like, subscribe, watch everything, and stay tuned. You know, we like to break stories over there. So make sure you keep watching because you never know what we might have. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you again. Bye.
Thank you.